Welcome back to another episode of Dying Out Loud, the podcast where we say everything that is in our minds and our hearts, and we take advantage of all of the moments that we have, which are these that we're sitting in right now. Today, my guest is my cousin and oncologist, Dr. Jeff Edenfield, and we're going to just take a stroll down memory lane from memories that I have of my childhood. Jeff is just a little bit older than I am, so my memories were from the time from like the age of 5, and Jeff was already in his teenage years, and then, of course, progressing through life to where we are today. So we're going to chat a little bit about sharing a family and all of the things that go along with that: memories, connection, loss, and the strength of family in the face of illness. So, Jeff, thanks for taking time out of your busy day to join me today to chat, and welcome to the show.
Thanks, Kris. Yeah, I've really been looking forward to this since you've been teaching me technology these last 2 weeks. Yeah, I'm really excited to be here.
I have to teach my mom technology as well, so I've become quite the adept technology trainer. So I'm glad that we got all of our technological situation figured out as well, so we can have this conversation today. Awesome. Well, I think we'll start back, like, as far as my memory will take me, which is to whenever Uncle Jerry and Aunt Diane lived in Jacksonville and they had a house with an in-ground pool in the backyard. Does that ring a bell to you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I think the house on Nora Street, I
There
think it
you
was.
go. I
Yes.
was 4 years old at the time, so I don't remember the street name, but I do remember that my mom and I spent some time at that house there with you all, and I have vivid memories of swimming in that pool. I think that pool is actually where I really learned to swim. It had a diving board. I remember a time when I jumped off that diving board, not realizing exactly how long it would take me to get to the top of the water from the bottom of the pool, and feeling like before I reached the top, that I was about to run out of air and I was just going to drown and sink back to the bottom. I remember a Hawaiian Punch pool float that I used to run and jump on all the time. And I definitely remember all of the times that you were responsible for watching your annoying little cousin in the backyard as well. So, but
But our family, I don't know. The thing I remember the most about those events is just laughter. It just seems like there was always good-natured ribbing and just genuine joy of life kind of stuff. And naturally, there was food to be had, of
of
course,
course.
since that was the central feature of our family. But no, I tell my mother all the time, my dad's since passed, that I really don't have any bad memories of growing up, to include hanging out with my cousins. So.
Yeah, I think about those times, especially being that we lived so far away from everyone else. I mean, the rest of our family is in the southern parts of the state and or the US, and us being, landlocked here in the center of the US. We were so far away from each other, but it never ceased to amaze me, even as I got into my adulthood, how quick and easy it was to reconnect in those moments when we were able to do that. And, now that we've both gotten older, our children are grown, we're both grandparents. It's really interesting to look back. And I know the reasons that we've been able to spend more time together in these last few years have not been reasons to bring a lot of laughter and joy, but it has been a really joyful experience for me to be able to reconnect. In spite of both of our parents aging, we've both lost our fathers at this point, and I was really fortunate to get to spend some time with Uncle Jerry, as he was spending his last few years on Earth. And it was so good to be able to reconnect with him and just let him know, how much of an influence he had been on me throughout my life. So it's
Yeah, I can't echo that more strongly. Obviously, I wish the circumstances are different, but one immense positive out of all this has been, I don't know, reknitting our fairly small family back together.
yeah,
And our parents' generation is now the sort of the senior, and your mom, Aunt Sharon, she's our matriarch at this point, and getting reconnected with you guys. It almost doesn't matter the reason why.
Yeah,
I just feel so peaceful about it. And maybe because I'm getting older, you start thinking about, you know, life, for lack of a better way. I
exactly.
just think family is just so important. And I think younger people can take it for granted. I don't wish to anymore. I think it's just incredibly powerful to have connections that way.
I definitely agree. And, you know, when I tell people today about, they ask about your family and your connections, I mean, because I really don't know my other cousins as well as I know you. And in my growing up years, I really didn't. I mean, I have obviously memories of being with everyone as a larger group, but I think, most of my memories of aunts and uncles, it's 100% like Uncle Jerry and Aunt Diane were hands down my favorites. They're the ones that I knew the best. I spent the most of my time with family, with your family. And so you guys all hold a really special place in my heart because as I was growing up, everybody around me had like their grandparents like in their backyard or around the corner. And my grandmother lived 18 hours away by car. And I think whenever I add up all the time that I spent with grandma, I mean, it's less than a month that I probably was with her face to face. And I look at my kids now and, my mom and dad, they helped raise my children. And my dad, 100%, for as quiet as that man was, he was so able to bring everyone together. And when he passed, I could see the pain like in my children, which I didn't really know in terms of a grandparent because I didn't have the relationship with my grandparents that my children were fortunate enough to have. But I'm so thankful that, we did live in the same place and that my parents did get to be a really active part of the kids' lives. And I know you feel the same way about your parents as well and them getting to see your kids and even
Yeah.
great grandkids. So yeah.
But I think a second avenue of thought reflects on those people who have choose to serve our country in the military. There's a cost to that,
Yeah.
right? It took you guys away from the rest of us
Yep.
in a way.
I did.
And Uncle Aaron and Sharon, your mom and dad did that completely willingly and in some ways happily and with great reward to them. The things your mom has accomplished, they just amaze me,
Yeah.
So I think the net is good, but the trade-off was a little less family time with the gang in Georgia and stuff. But again, I think we only have now.
That's right.
So I think it's been our approach together, I think, since we've got reconnected, so that let's just go have today.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's interesting. I remember in my 30s when I was first diagnosed with cancer, and I think my mom is the one that probably shared that with you, and just even reconnecting with you, like at random, whenever I have like a weird test result or like this is what I think this means. Could you validate it for me? I've oftentimes surprised my own oncology team here in Kansas City with the way I have approached handling the situation. And I will admit, and I don't know if you know this because I don't know that my mom has shared it with very many people, but that first 6 months after I got my stage 4 cancer diagnosis, I really became sort of a recluse and pretty much a 180 from the person that I am and have always been, an outgoing, very caring, empathetic person. And I really like kind of just pulled myself back so far because I was afraid of that. You read 9 months to 3 years for most people who have the type of cancer that I have. And then you read things like, oh, well, less than 3 people or less than 3% of people get, metastases to their kidneys. And here I have metastases in my kidneys and like all of these pieces of information that just make me, you talked a little bit about facing life and living, and to the opposite of that, I started really like obsessing over like the reality of death. And here I'm coming up on 3 years. I've been on chemo, I've had multiple radiations, multiple surgeries, but I'm still able to show up like for the people that I love and the people that I work with, and still I'm able to give like 100%. And I know that not everyone that has had a similar journey or a parallel journey with colon cancer, I know they can't all say the same thing. Like it has a different toll on every person. And I feel so fortunate that I think that I came from and learned from a family that, pretty much love is a power that can kind of transcend anything, even an illness. And for me, it's definitely done that. Like, I feel like I've had more bad news than I've had good news. And I think I've pretty much settled into the fact that there's not going to be a way to get rid of all the cancer that's in me. But super appreciative of the fact that it's taking its time and going slow and giving me a chance to do things like this and connect with people so that I'm not going to leave anyone without them knowing how much they have meant to me throughout life, the impact they've had on me, and the way that it's helping shape who I'm becoming. Because I've definitely learned in 3 years, the last 3 years especially, that I haven't arrived at the place that I'm heading to yet, and I am on a path that's going to get me there. But every single day, I'm taking in new knowledge and really looking at life from much more of a youthful perspective than a person who is, probably in the last chapter. Now, I hope that last chapter lasts like decades, and that remains to be seen. But the reality is, I feel like I've packed so much goodness into these last 3 years that whatever is to come, I'm completely ready for it. And I don't even think I'm scared anymore, just because I've faced the reality of the situation and I have a great support system. But that was a bunny trail to just say that it's also been so great to have somebody that is familiar with what I'm going through, and you've helped, thousands of other people through it. And it's great to know that, I have somebody that has an unbiased, objective opinion about what's going on and what the reality looks like.
I've thought about you as probably more than you can even conceive. And I've learned a lot throughout all this. First was I had this craving, this deep craving to know every ounce, every word in your chart. I wanted every single bit of it, right? Because I knew, I hoped, I prayed, if I could just read the chart, I would find that nugget. I would find that thing that would let me help you. But what emerged over time was this realization was all you needed was for me to be there.
Yeah.
And I think that was okay. And I've learned with patients that I might have a schedule of things. I might have my plan, but you know what? It's not me. It's their schedule. It's their plan. And how you arrive at this place of peace and how you choose to live your day,
Yeah.
I'm here to be your support. I'm here to be your help. I'm not here to be part of the problem. And I think the practice of medicine, it intends to intrude on every aspect of your life. It's very intentional. It's harder to step back and just say, I'm here when you need me. And I certainly hope I have been.
You absolutely have been. You actually almost got me to make my eyes water. So I contained myself. But it has been like truly not only for me, but I mean, I don't know if you realize even the impact that you've had on my mom, who, for most intents and purposes, is the person that I'm most worried about leaving because of the loss that she's already suffered. And what you are able to do for her and settling like all of the thoughts that are running through her mind has been so helpful to me, because the last thing I have energy for right now is trying to talk my mom off the ledge whenever I've been standing on the edge of it so much myself. So I have really appreciated that. And I'm actually glad that I am able to tell you that in this moment, because I may not have said that before, but that is something that has been so meaningful. And, in doing that, it's also helped my brother deal with it as well, because my brother is just like my dad. He never says a word. He would never tell anyone an emotion, which is why he has yet to come on this podcast, because he's afraid of showing his emotions to not only me, but to the rest of the world.
You could just have a picture of him and just talk
Yeah,
to him.
exactly. I told him, if I have to come and tie you up, just like I was whenever I was little and we were playing like war, we used to tie each other up, and like you would have to stay trapped in that prison for however long we played the game. I'm like, I will come there and I will tie you up just like I used to whenever we were little, and I will sit there and make you talk to me. So
I don't think I've certainly not told you this. Your mom may have. He helped me with dad more than anything. Really, I was Andrea, my wife, wonderful. My kids, fantastic. But a parent and their passing is, I don't know, it's somewhat of a uniquely solo experience in some ways. But your mom, she listened to me be mad. She listened to me cry. She listened to me have questions that I had no answers for. And she just did it. And I think it was hard on her because it's her brother she loved dearly,
Yeah.
her big brother. But I think that, again, the positive that's come out of this has been this sort of wonderful, just tight connection. And when my phone rings and I look up and it says Aunt Sharon, I take that call every time. I don't hide. I love that call. I can't say there's 1,000 of those, but I take hers. And when she and I'll talk and suddenly 40 minutes have vanished,
Yeah.
I, at the end of the day, you have to say, it doesn't matter how we got back together. I'm just glad we all did.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, honestly, I've been telling mom, like, we've got to figure out a way to get everybody together because I want to see your kids and I want to see their kids and I want to have an opportunity to do that one more time.
I think there's no time like tomorrow,
Yeah.
but man, life is
It,
nuts.
it definitely, well, and that's just it,
You're-
right? Like when you start like bringing a spouse into the picture and then you have children and then your children grow up and you have to start working their schedules into things as well. I mean, I never realized how happily complicated that can be. I mean, right? Because there's so much happiness in seeing your kids get married and have children and have successful lives and being amazing parents that you never could have imagined because you know that you weren't that same parent. It has been so rewarding to watch that. And then to know that you're leaving them with like these connections with these other people who have, helped create who you've become, like that's I think one of the best gifts to have given my kids is just that connection with all of these other amazing humans who, you know, they don't have to know every detail of their lives. They love you because you have a family connection and there's
I,
something so special about that.
I think too, parents are the only people that tell us and mean it both ways. They say, I love it when you're here. And they mean it like with all their being. And they say, I understand why you can't be here. And they mean it with all their being. And so I think they've raised us to get out and be and do, just like we've done with our kids, get out and be and
Yeah.
do. We all have now different orbits, and getting it all to align just right is a challenge.
Yeah, I definitely agree. But we will figure it out and we will make that happen for sure. I'm interested to know when you are working with your patients, and I mean, I can only imagine as many patients as there are that many different reactions to receiving news like you have stage 4 cancer. And while today, just because someone says you have stage 4 cancer, that's not like a death sentence. And I think people have always associated it with that. How do you help your patients navigate like all of the emotions that come? Because I can only imagine you've had everything from people bursting out into tears to people being just pissed off and angry. And I mean, I've experienced all of those emotions myself, but whenever I'm with my oncology team, I try to be a responsible grown adult and take everything in that they're saying because that's the only way that I can actually take action and get back in the control seat. But I'm interested to know, like, how do you help your patients navigate that?
Yeah, and it's going to sound trite. I don't mean it to, but there's just no two situations that are alike. And I think for those patients that maybe I've cared for a number of years where the cancer is progressing, I can have that conversation on an immensely human level with them because they're friends and they're
Yeah.
people I know, their grandkids, their dogs. We've been keeping up with one another. Maybe the harder ones are the people that you meet more acutely in a desperate situation and you have to make some decisions where you want to still be very human. You want to be respectful and empower the silence if they need it. I just think there are just occasions where it's just going to be hard. And the most poignant situations always for me are pregnant people that get cancer. It's just, to me, it just wrecks my
Yeah.
soul. But you have a responsibility to talk and to plan. And I've left many a conversation with, I think that's enough today. Come back tomorrow. Let's do some more. And it might take several days to really work through what we think about it all and what questions they have. You've been in this position where you're given this news and it's sometimes hard to formulate questions,
Yeah.
right? And if you come by yourself or there's a limited amount of health literacy sometimes, they just don't know what to ask. And sometimes the best thing is to say, go home, get a piece of paper, think tonight, talk with your family, come back tomorrow, and let's do some more. Yeah, I think you have to understand when people have heard enough, and maybe you're not being heard anymore. But I think the secret to giving difficult news is really to have a plan. You can't just end with the news. You have to end with a plan. And
Yeah.
sometimes the plan is, here's a treatment that I think might be helpful. Sometimes the plan is hospice is a great way to manage your symptoms, and it's a great way to maximize your quality of life without you being miserable. Even sometimes a hospice recommendation is better received when it's the plan,
Yeah.
right? So I think most, and you can attest to this, most people would be surprised to know how long people get to know their oncologist.
Yeah.
I saw people yesterday in clinic that I've seen for 20 years. These are dear people to me, and I think that it's the best of what I do. I think it's allowing yourself to get connected. The risk is, of course, you get hurt sometimes because it's not always going to work out. But I think it's far better to celebrate some highs and wonderment and acknowledge that you're going to have to deal with some sad too.
It's great to hear you say that. I mean, I would have expected nothing less than that as the kind of doctor that you were. And I think that's really good for people listening too to understand is that, you know, being a doctor, it's far more than just being that job or showing up and being the person that is maybe solving an issue in a moment. But you're right. You do build relationships. I mean, I still have a great relationship from my colorectal surgeon from my 30s whenever I was diagnosed with stage 3, and I still keep him updated. He's not part of my care team now because I've moved to another hospital system, but I still keep in touch with him. He knows kind of what's going on, and every once in a while, if I have a question or I just want to get his thoughts on it, like I can shoot him a text and he'll shoot it right back to me. So those relationships are really important. I think, especially from the patient's perspective, because I've definitely developed that. Is it called hero syndrome or something like that, where you start looking at your doctor? I mean, good heavens, my colorectal surgeon, I think I like almost fell in love with him. One day I was coming out of a surgery, and I think the nurses even told me that I professed my love to my surgeon as I was coming out. And I was like, oh, well, that's really great. He's probably not going to want to see me anymore. But he did want to see me again. And he also made a joke of it whenever I came back. So we've always laughed about that. But it's really interesting, you know, especially when you're in that vulnerable state of being a patient, you know, that just how connected you can get to somebody that really is doing everything they can to make your quality of life better, extend your life, or just care for you. It's so great to work with, you know, a doctor that's like that. And I mean, especially in oncology, I think that's, you know, one of the more delicate situations that most humans deal with in their life is cancer, or dealing with a family member who has cancer. And there's so many questions and uncertainty. And I'm glad that we've gotten to a space where cancer isn't like a bad word where people have to whisper it. You know, we can talk about it, and hell, as I have learned, you can even start talking about things like going to the bathroom and having a conversation about what your bowel movement looks like. You can talk about anything and not feel
You don't have to wait till you're 75 anymore. You can start today.
right. Hell, I started talking about bowel movements at the age of 38. So, and I haven't stopped talking about them since.
So
Jeff, I know we're running out of time today, but one of the most important things that I want to be able to do today is just to share a little letter that I had written, you know, for people that might be listening for the first time. Over the course of the last 3 years, during my chemo infusions, where I would spend a full 8-hour day in the hospital hooked up to an IV machine, and then I would go home and carry a pump for the next 2 days. Over those times, whenever I was kind of like, you know, so fatigued that I couldn't move from bed, I spent a lot of time writing, always, but I actually wrote letters. And at the end of that last period of chemo, I kind of started flipping back through, and I realized I had 74 letters that I had written to people, and they were all people that I wanted to give these letters to at some point in time, but I had almost decided that I would wait until, you know, after I had passed. And something this summer started to stir inside me, and I'm like, you know what, I really think I want to share these messages with people now so that I can actually deliver them myself. And the more we talked about it, this is kind of what we landed on in terms of sharing it. And I've been fortunate that every person that I've reached out to has graced me with their presence here. But I'd love to share that message with you now, and then I'll give you a minute or two to respond, and I'll have one more question for you after that. All right. Jeff, from some of my earliest memories, like swimming in your parents' pool, being looked after by you, and moments of connection in both of our childhoods, you've always been more than just a cousin. I remember looking up to you, watching you go through medical school, and really aspiring to be like you. I idolized you as a child, and that has grown into a great respect for you as an adult. I remember vividly a time when you stayed with us. We lived in Lansing, Kansas at the time. You stayed with us while you were going to a medical school convention, or you were taking a class in Kansas City. And you and I went on a car ride to something like a convenience store or the grocery store. And I remember in that car ride, I told you that I would sure did wish we lived closer to each other. And over the time that we had spent together while you were on that visit, I was just like, that's the older brother that I always have wanted to have. Because being the oldest, you always like, this is a person I can learn from and I can grow from watching them go through life. As we grew older, I came to know and love your family, your children, as if they were part of my own immediate family. And through the painful losses of both of our fathers, I think we've been reminded of how important it is to hold on to all of the connections in life that really matter. And through that, I look at the time that we've spent together in recent years, and just how meaningful that has been, meaningful beyond words, really. Now, as you know not just my cousin but my friend, and someone from a professional and medical perspective, you've given me something even deeper, a sense of support and understanding in my cancer journey that really is an understanding unlike anyone else that I have a relationship with, because you've seen firsthand what cancer does and can do to people. You've been a great sounding board, an amazing source of wisdom, and a reminder of the love that really does run through our family. And I'm truly grateful for all of the memories that I carry from my childhood and young adulthood, appreciation for the example that you've set, and for the presence that you continue to hold in my life today. And I just want you to know that I greatly appreciate you. I love you. And I'm so thankful that I have you beside me as I'm kind of going through, you know, this journey. So thank you for everything.
It's never felt like a burden. It's only felt like something that was very natural. And I know I might have gotten off the phone a few times and cried about you. I think that I made the same decision you did. I'm going to be in the day with you, and I'm going to figure out how to make every day as good as we can. And I think I will confess that as an oncologist, we do have mechanisms to put shields up and help us not always, when things are sad, to not always feel quite so the cause of the sadness. But it is especially hard when it's your family and it's people you love. You just feel like you ought to be able to fix something. And I think that you don't need fixing. Honestly, you just need to be in our family. We just need to be family. And really, the rest of this kind of takes care of itself. And I know none of us knows for sure how things go, but I know this. I love you a lot, and I love your mom and your brother, and we will just get by.
That we will. That we will. Oh, whew. That's always my favorite part, but it's always the part that makes me lose my ability to speak for just a few minutes. As we wrap up, Jeff, anything that you can offer to anybody that might be listening, just maybe a way for them to show up for that person in their life that is dealing with a cancer journey. Any recommendations for just how to be there for someone?
Yeah, I think it is just acknowledge the powerful aspect of silence, right? It doesn't always have to be discussed. It doesn't have to be the topic of every conversation. Every hug doesn't have to feel like it's a prelude to how you're doing. There's really something about just shutting up and just being with people. I'm convinced that when we say to people, how are you, it's more of an expression of how much we're afraid maybe of
Yeah.
that rather than wanting to know how they're doing, because maybe we don't really want to know. But I think even the best of us could stand to just laugh a little and deal in non sequiturs for a minute or two and just something giggly that you saw. But I guess I would just say there's so much more to life than the cancer. I would just say try not to make the topic of every conversation with someone you love who has cancer about the cancer.
Yeah, I love that. It's so funny because people do ask me, because obviously I have a big mouth and I talk a lot about what's going on, and I'm pretty transparent with everyone, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I always tell people, they say, well, what do I say? What do I ask? I'm like, well, why do you have to say or ask anything? Why not just go and be and sit? You don't even have to talk. Quite honestly, sometimes that's the last thing somebody wants to do, really, is talk. But the feeling of having a human being sitting next to you or walking alongside you while you're dealing with the myriad of emotions that you deal with on a daily basis, having somebody that is comfortable just sitting and being is one of the best gifts I think that people have given to me, is just, showing up and meeting me like wherever I am for the day, because depending on the day and how I'm feeling, that might look a little different. And while I do my best job to show up the same every time, sometimes that's impossible. But that person that shows up and is just willing to sit and save space for you, like, those people are just invaluable. And those are the people that really and truly end up being your anchors through these moments. So I'm going to wrap up. I think that was a great place to end. And I think it actually urges me to, invite everyone that's listening to reach out to somebody that you've not had an opportunity to share a moment like this with. And it doesn't matter if that person is your mother, father, sister, brother, uncle, aunt, cousin, or a friend or a coworker. Give them the message that you've been waiting to give them. And if that's appreciation, let them know and feel how much you appreciate them. That I think has been one of the most awesome parts about doing this, is just getting to share these words with, the people that I care about, and also giving them a chance to share a little bit about, their thoughts and their memories and their experiences. So that's my invite to you. Stop listening to the podcast when it's over. Pick up the phone, send an email, a text, whatever your method of communication is, and reach out and strengthen that connection that you already have. Family is one of the most enduring connections that we have. And as you've listened to Jeff and I chat, I hope that our story shows a little bit how those roots really do shape us across a lifetime. And it doesn't matter how many times the roads diverge and you head in different directions, you always have that family connection, and it is what you make of it. We're leaning into our family connection, and I hope that you all do the same. Jeff, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I know that you're going to be off this and back to saving lives again. So I appreciate all that you do for me and for all of the folks that you help.
I really enjoyed it. As Jim Valvano says, you should use all your emotions every day. Happy to share those with you.
I definitely feel like I embody that every single day. And I think that is great advice as well, because that's how you handle and deal with life, is through your emotions. Yep. So thanks so much, Jeff. I know I'll talk to you again soon. I hope you have a great rest of your work day, and we'll catch up later. See ya.
All right. Talk to you.
Alrighty. Bye-bye.